Hi, everybody. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are joining us in the world. Thank you so much for joining another fantastic episode of Leaders Labs, which is one of the many Customer Success Network initiatives. This is a very special episode. Today marks the end of the first season of Leaders Labs and the last episode with our absolutely magnificent host, Emilia. Apart from being the founder and CEO of boutique customer success consulting firm Growth Molecules, Emilia is a really dear friend to the Customer Success Network. And if you've been in the industry for more than a couple of months, you know how much she's done for the global customer success community over the years. It has been more than a pleasure for me and for the team to work with her, and we're so grateful for her contributions to our community. Today, Emilia will pass on the baton to our next Leaders Labs host. Before I hand over to her to do this, I would like to share with you that sadly, our planned guest for today, Peter Sturkenberg, is not going to be able to make this episode due to last-minute personal reasons. Do though, please rest assured that this episode will still be full of fantastic tips around customer success operations. And we're also going to make sure to bring you Peter's experience and advice in one of our many future events. Thank you for sticking with us. Last but not least, please do get involved in the discussion. On the screen in front of you, you can see the Slido link as well as the event code. So if you go to slido.com and you enter Leaders Labs as the event code, you'll be able to ask questions. We'll ask the ones that are most relevant and most upvoted towards the end. But with that, Emilia, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Marika. I am very excited this morning to announce that Shane Correa, I'm probably saying your last name wrong, is going to be taking over, and he's actually going to do this session with me on operations. So Shane, yay, if you want to join us, get off your hidden view. And with that, let's dive right in. Shane, for those who don't know you well, we'd love for you to give us an introduction of where you've been in customer success and where you are now.
Perfect. Great to be here. Thanks so much for the intro. Wish there was a bouquet of flowers that somehow I could hand over instead of a torch or baton. So definitely honored to be here and to pick up the program. Looking forward to it. So a little bit about me, dad of two, married. I think you had 15 years. I think I'm around 25 years. As you can tell by the accent, American, but live in Stockholm. And met a Swedish girl in '94. Started my career as a naval officer. So service had always meant something quite important to me. Been in customer success before it was called customer success. I guess it was customer management at a time, but had been in technology now for a number of years at small companies, scale-ups, startups, even large ones like Oracle. I've been there a number of years also. So been around the customer success network, the customer conference, had a session there. So know some of the names, but looking forward to meeting the team definitely, and sharing lessons learned. I mean, over the years, made a ton of mistakes and not ashamed to say it. So looking forward to sharing that, and of course, adding value to it, to the conversation.
Right. Oh, thanks, Shane. What a great introduction. So today we are talking about operations, and it's near and dear to my heart. When I was at BrightEdge, I was hired along with another CS leader in operations, and the two of us across 80 customer success and support professionals did the operations. And what I learned through that process is the value and importance of having an ops team to really scale globally. BrightEdge was in Australia and Europe and expanding into Japan and all over North America in a very competitive industry. And what the vision to put ops in early made a huge impact. With that, I took it over to WalkMe, and while it took 6 months to convince the founders that this had to be part of the strategy, as soon as I got the green light, it changed. I put someone in place who really knew the product well and understood the importance of scaling and having processes and enablement for customer success managers where you're all speaking the same language, delivering the same experience with your own flair. And that's what operations can really do for your organization. So you've worked at very large companies, at small companies. What would you say the top 3 operational processes that you've either implemented or seen implemented at your organization that's really transformed the organization?
So a bit of context. The examples are from a company that I was at, Field Edge. It was between 2015 to 2017. Started at 24, 25 people, grew to 100 people in 2 years, launched a SaaS offering, had 5 million ARR and exited to private equity for 100 million, all in 2 years. So
Wow.
you can't do that without process. And that's, I guess, where I'd want to start in that onboarding. We saw 20% of our churn was new customers, less than a year old. So you spend all that money on acquiring a customer, you cannot afford to lose them after that. It impacts lifetime value and it obviously impacts churn. So onboarding we saw as a key process, which I admit is nothing new. So the phases, the processes that we established were not unique to any other product. What we found is the broader the product, the more capable the product, the deeper the product goes, the more you'd have to invest up front. And equally, once you even outline a great curriculum for onboarding and a process to the T with SLAs and great visualization of the process, and you know when things are going slow or fast, it still comes down to the human aspect that you're talking to people that need time to learn a new software. So we backed up and started, okay, when is this relationship starting? What's the handover from sales? What information do we capture in a very systematic way? How do we categorize the customer so we can really differentiate this journey so that it makes a difference? And then have a session with the owner. It was small, medium business, so we could do this, but with an owner, the decision maker, management, and then those who would use the software. That kicking off, so understanding what they wanted to achieve by when, how they're going to measure it, understanding their business, prioritizing. They were able to prioritize because our process was very clear. They can understand what's expected of me throughout this process so that they can process that. That buy-in on top of a very clear, transparent process for the customer transformed it. So we were able to get far less support tickets, far less hits, reactive. We would reposition resources based on that. So yeah, I guess onboarding, people know, setting up and understanding what the goal is. So it's time to first value is really hitting when you expect it. And then I would say the data so that you're able to know when things are not happening as they should. So first is onboarding, obviously transitions to first year adoption, understanding there again, how do we measure that? What is a journey that we would expect a customer to take, hope to take? Start segmenting deeper into the customer base to understand, can we personalize this journey? And we even took some of the resources from onboarding and just repurposed that elsewhere. So building these small tutorials, not this huge curriculum, long 45-minute hour sessions, but being able to give the customer the information in the format they wanted at the time they needed it, but there again, process. Lastly was upsells. And this was, okay, people process technology. I know that you adhere to that as well, but upsell was something that you can, yes, you can coach sales, but depending on, I won't say your DNA, but some people have a I would call an aged opinion of what sales is like, and they can be uncomfortable being opportunistic. They be uncomfortable having this conversation. So a lot went into mindset, culture. Do you actually believe that this is best for our company, for the customers? Do you understand how it contributes to their own retention, their own growth? And really getting the mindset around that approach. And then we ended up having a process. So we knew what customers would pitch and when. We would track when we did pitch it, so it wasn't 5 people calling up and suggesting the same thing, horrible experience. And the most important thing so something that I didn't realize except for a mistake. So we would aggressively upsell, and we thought things were going well until we realized that just like you do onboarding for a new customer, we need re-onboarding because nothing was worse than selling someone a capability that they were excited about, but they didn't use it or they didn't understand how. So we had yet another process, but then we could recreate or repurpose again what was used in onboarding. But upselling onboarding was something that we saw was definitely necessary, and we were able to measure that because we saw that a large portion that a module, there was a GPS module and a mobile module, these separate modules had a huge impact on retention. So it wasn't only the money we would make incrementally per customer, it was also they were with us longer. So both aspects were there. So those are the three, but I'm sure they weren't groundbreaking for the audience, but for us, it was transformational because we had a lot of angry customers in the beginning, 70 customers waiting for answers and things like that. And then in 2 years, back-to-back Stevie Awards for best and favorite team and I mean, exited. So you don't exit unless things are kind of efficient. But that's all comes down to process.
So Shane, I would say that for the audience, not everyone has been through this process. So I think it's really important that you've shared, and I'll recap. For some, we've had some in the chat discussion saying, please, we want to make sure this is recorded. Yes, it's recorded. And the key takeaways we will put on the Customer Success Network YouTube channel, and then we will write a blog about it. But to recap, it's seamless handoffs from sales to CS, having a robust onboarding program for your company and your customers according to where they are in segmentation, and then especially operations. They better have data to be able to enable customer success managers, right? If you're able to give them data, then they can visualize it for the customer to show them the ROI early on in the customer relationship. So I think those are really powerful processes that your CS Ops team should be responsible for implementing and educating the team with.
There's a benefit also in culture. So as you're leading a team through a transition, you need to be able to recognize those that are doing more than others. So it's so you need to make informed decision. I think everyone understands that, but CS Ops was so fundamental to visualizing, to lifting up what's actually happening. What are we doing when, who's doing more than others? And then recognizing those that are making a big impact. Because yes, we're a team, we're doing it together, but you're always trying to learn who's doing it slightly better than others and then understanding why. And the data that you mentioned in the beginning, I have to admit, it was a mess. Like Excel left and right, many different systems, not in the right format, VLOOKUP. I mean, thank goodness I had a guy, Owen Sloan, who, I mean, together we made a vicious team because he was a genius anyway, but he was also a genius in Excel. So we were able to get, even though we didn't have the technology, we could make those informed decisions. And this is why CS Ops can be the heart and soul, because you're the few that understand all the business processes that make CS what it is. It's a very diverse and broad function, but if you don't measure it, how are you going to improve something? So yeah, I just wanted to touch on the culture and leadership aspects. It was imperative to have dashboards. Otherwise, you can't build motivation and momentum if you're not measuring something.
And Shane, you're leading me right to the next question. And for the audience, yes, there's absolutely going to be Q&A, but I have to ask this question. I think it's really important. I have been working with a lot of VCs recently who are really interested in understanding what is customer success, even though it's been around since, the late 90s. They really want to understand it and the ROI. And so if VCs don't understand customer success, or at least the ones that are contacting me recently, how can you even justify or measure operationalizing customer success as a leader in an organization? I know it's a heavy question.
No.
Everyone wants to know.
So I know there's a lot, thank goodness there's leaders, Dave Jackson comes to mind. There are leaders that are putting the math down. There are
Mm.
templates, yourself as well, and your team, that at least start to put the numbers down. So you have a unfortunately, we can be seeing this, as I know, as a debate, as a cost center, but it's very much, okay, what revenue are we generating, protecting, and what levers that we have, because this is where CSOps comes into. We are, and I'll get into it later, there's always more to do, and there's always more to do. Everyone's trying to take care of more customers. Instead of 10 million, it's going to be 20 million ARR.
Mhm.
Instead of 50 customers, it's 100 customers. So in a way, if you're never able to show and exemplify and show value of what the team is doing, you will never win that question. You'll never even begin that. And this is where CSOps, if you able to see how many, I know it's getting the details, but how many outbound proactive calls you're making, how much revenue you're protecting each month per head, how many referrals you're generating, how many testimonials you're generating, what reviews are online, the net promoter, which I know is another debate, but CSAT net promoter, contacts per customer, like how much is, if you onboard and they know, they're not going to talk to you, they were off and running, they're successful, they want to run their business. So I think we can get, this is not a definitive answer, but we can break it down and start looking at, okay, where are we impacting the business, and then how much is it costing us, and then maybe we're uncomfortable owning a number. I was in sales now for almost 2 years, because of this. Like, we tend to have discussions about, should we have commission or not. Well, if you have a quota, then sure, maybe you have a commission. So VCs, it's definitely about increasing the retention, the upsell capabilities, and then how much you're getting out of the team today, and what are you measuring. Then there's direct measurements. Then there's all these things that the team influences, brand marketing, like your employee branding, even how great they are. The culture of that company is absolutely a tool outbound for customer acquisition. So yeah, I think I need to get better at that answer, but willing to talk more about it.
I'll just add, I really believe that in operations, if you really want to show the value of your ops team, start with putting in place a program that will touch all customers regardless of segment. And I don't want to say a tech touch, because it will never be truly tech touch. There will always be some human element checking. And so having something like a CS platform in place, let's say, for example, which your ops team would be responsible for, think about how can you operationalize a lot of the mundane tasks of your CSM. Then you're able to go to leadership and say, we've put a platform in place, we have an ops leader, and they're reducing X number of hours a month so that customer success managers can focus on what they were hired to do in the first place. That's build relationships, proactive outreach to red customers. Okay. It's those kind of things where ops can really, really have impact. And to expect a CSM to be building this process and putting process in place is like asking a salesperson to put Salesforce in place, yeah, and get it up and running. And so that's how I want to make sure that message is clear, at least from my perspective, and having done this and working with clients now over and over again. How do we scale? Well, it's get an ops team and put something in place to reduce the administrative tasks and increase the relationship building.
So from a CS ops ROI, it's clearly where are you wasting time? Where should you be putting your time? And you may have a base with 50% attachment. So there's 50% of the customers have the potential for an upsell, but they may not be the right customers. But understanding that is also where that they can help. Where do you invest your time? Regardless, because everyone is going to have an idea, an innovation, a new outreach, or a new playbook. But okay, where should you invest that time? Where do you develop and deepen the relationships, and even in training? So should they be doing reactive things or proactive things? Right. Something as basic as that.
So Shane, we have only 9 minutes left together. I know there are a lot of questions out there. I want to make sure that we ask you, as you become the new leader of the Leaders Labs, what is the number one theme that you're going to be taking the audience forward with that you're seeing in customer success?
So for me, it's been we're good, and this is a great segue. It's ops is about measuring. It's about data and establishing and refining process throughout an organization, regardless of geography, right? So alignment of process, then you're able to measure, rinse and repeat, and be more efficient. Where I want to say we have a lot to do when it comes to measuring how a team is performing. How are they feeling? We're in and has been in a branch that is a very broad role description, and it's also very dynamic. That puts enormous stress on a team. We also hire great people if we're lucky, and those people care. They're empathetic. They are the heroes. They're the backbone of the company culture. And we say this over and over, but that has a cost. So what I want to focus on, both from former leaders and leaders that are just leading by example, how do we take care of one another to get through this? Because post-COVID, yeah, are we going back to work? Sure, but maybe some are, some not, but it's not going to be the same. They're still going to be remote. We don't have the same nonverbal ways to pick up how our coworkers are doing. So I think just as we're being deliberate in all other aspects of the business, I want to talk to companies that are using culture to make sure that their team is not only feeling great, but being able to do that sustainably over time, not stress, preventative and proactive measures, just like we do again with customers, but internally. And there's some great examples, thankfully, that companies are successfully using actually culture as a differentiator. So excited to talk more about that, and even yeah. Let's see what questions pop up now.
Yes, let's take 4 minutes of questions. We're going to power through as many as we can. And then I want to make sure we sign off so everyone knows how to get a hold of us and what's coming next. Wrong screen, but it's coming back.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Number one. I'll answer that if you don't mind, and feel free to chime in.
Yeah.
I am the first CS operations hire in my organization. I would build a playbook with people, process, and systems. Write down on a whiteboard like I have, who are the people, what are their key strengths that they bring to the table, what are we missing? Then what processes have we built and what are we missing? And then what systems do we have? What can we reduce and what do we absolutely need? If you build that out in a few simple slides, it will help organize your train of thought, and then start with small wins. I think that's really important to be successful as the first CS operations hire. Good luck. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think one tiny thing to add on telling stories with data. If you're new to that role, you're going to have a lot of information thrown at you. So get comfortable in using that information. Don't just replicate the dashboard, but really understand and dig into the why.
So Praveen's question, do you want to answer that, Shane? I don't know what a KRA meeting is, but I think I get the idea.
We've just gotten confirmation for Praveen that refers to key responsibility areas.
Okay.
There's enough risk before trades. These are customers going red, I'm assuming.
That's right. So if we're working in a customer centricity office or working after customers, specifically Praveen's role appears to be the identification of potential risk before a customer goes red. What are some of the key best practices that you can do? So if there are a few things that we should focus on to identify risk before it goes bad.
So yeah, this is the holy, now I understand. So this is the holy grail, right? Everyone wants leading indicators of churn. The basic way is you take, unfortunately, historical data, which you hopefully had exit interviews to understand and confirm why, but at least you have the behavior of the customer prior to them giving you that information. and this doesn't matter if it's customer success or anything else, historical information. What do you see in common across these? Now, this is, unfortunately, if you have a lot of information, a lot of signals, you can maybe find out commonality across the ones that are leaving. And again, we had ones where, all right, one small thing, Delta. So if you see them that they had, let's say 10 support tickets every month for the past 4 years, all of a sudden they have 40 or 5. Just, it's the shift, significant shifts over time, over a short amount of time is where I'd see something should be done. Yes, we're always looking at logins, activity, usage in general, but you're gonna have to go deeper into that. Changes in organization, huge, but that's not necessarily in our system. So something short and sweet, look for the deltas, and then pull that forward. But
And I'll just add, if you go to simplifyingcs.com, we will be releasing in the coming week a guide on health metrics. One of our clients and now one of my partners, Sabina Pons, built a 91% accuracy rate in Gainsight with 26 measurements going into that health score. It has a 91% accuracy rate. And it's not reactive, it's proactive. They're able to predict churn with that health score. So we're going to give it away on simplifyingcs.com.
That's fantastic. And personalization, so it's not one combination is going to be fit for all. The more you segment the base, the more these subtleties are going to highlight. If you just look at everything all at one blob, you're not going to be able to pick these up.
All right. And so the last question, and we only have a minute left, I'm just going to say, in terms of size, there's no one right size to have CS ops. Do that simple whiteboard exercise. People, process, systems, what do you need? And why should an ops person be within your company? What is the impact? Start putting pricing around that. It's a task. It's something that you can brainstorm on Miro, for example. Just put it out there and start getting pricing around the impact that that person will have on your org. I've started it at companies with 10 people, companies with 350, and companies over 1,000.
And also how much time you're spending on that now. If you're VPCS or whatever, if you're spending all your time managing data, that's wrong. So exactly. That's one way to show there's a time to do it earlier.
Love that. All right, with 1 minute left, I want to thank Marika and the whole Customer Success Network for inviting me to be part of this series. I want to wish Shane good luck. And if you'd like to have more tips and information from me, I'm at growthmolecules.com. And we are always putting out actionable blogs and downloads at simplifyingcs.com. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Emilia.
Thank you,
Marika. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be putting up the first episode with Shane within the next month. We are taking a break in August, like probably most of you are. But do look out on our LinkedIn page, Customer Success Network, or on customersuccess.network if you'd like to join the discussion in some of our online communities. It's been a pleasure, Shane. I look forward to working together.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.